Welcome to the Lucidist podcast, where I explore everything because I believe everything is connected to everything else, which means if you explore one thing, you explore them all, and it will lead you where you need to go. And second, because I believe in the infinite, unbounded potential within each of us, and I surmise it would be difficult to know that infinite, unbounded potential unless you were willing to explore all things. So today I'm exploring hate again. This is part 2. I did not know there would be a part 2 when I did part 1, but there is a part 2, and I'm going to ask for your patience because I'm very much in the thick of this exploration, and it's fascinating. It's confusing. It's a little scary. It's also been inspiring, moments of immense awe and appreciation. So years and years ago, I met a woman, and she invited me to consider that emotions were a form of energy, form of consciousness, and they could be explored. They could be, they could go as far as you want. At first they were just sort of energies that taught me, so to speak. I would say my relationship with emotions now are that of beings, energetic consciousness, many things, and that I absolutely can and do have relationships with them. And sometimes I seek out a certain emotion because I need it in my life and it's missing. I would say more often an emotion comes into my life and makes itself very present in a way that it can no longer be ignored. And I appreciate that now. I don't always appreciate it in the moment, but I understand that it's an opportunity that's being given. So after my first EMDR session, hate is what came out of that, which was so fascinating, not at all what I thought would come out, because the EMDR session I did not think had anything to do with hate, but that's what came out. So the past 10 days have been very much exploring hate. Hate as its own entity, right? Hate is its own energy, its own consciousness, its own being. But I would say that was just the tip of the iceberg, because what's really fascinating about hate is how each one of us personalizes it, how each one of us chooses to have a relationship. So the last 10 days have been both understanding hate as its own sort of entity and being and presence, consciousness, and also the way I have personalized it, how I engage with it, how I utilize it, how I interact with it, how I believe it, just all of my own personalizations of it. And what I've come to see, I guess I'd like to share a few things. The first one is through meditation. My meditation practice allows me to energetically experience, feel, understand, and know a moment. So I don't just look at it with my mind. I energetically feel that moment with my body, and that often leads me to great understanding. And I've begun to see the ways that I am generating hate in myself, that I get to be responsible for much of the hate that's currently happening in my life. And that does not surprise me, because I can look in on my life right now and see that there is so much good. There is so much good. And I'm having a difficult time engaging with the good, accepting the good, allowing the good, receiving the good, because there's still like this internal generation of hate. So I totally take responsibility for that. I'm absolutely beginning to work with that, see that. And when I say hate, I think a lot of people think it's big. And it could be big. And there have been times in my life where the hate is big. Right now, what I'm seeing mostly are just these small little ways that I generate hate. Like one of them, might seem little, but I understand the power of a seed. And so for me, it's big, meaning there is some gentleman that works in the building that I work in, and he drives a very noisy car. And I just don't mean like a noisy car. I mean like when he leaves the building, the conversation in my office will stop and people will say, "What is that noise?" Like it's incredible the noise this car makes. It doesn't even sound like a car. It sounds like a jet engine. I don't actually know how one car makes so much noise. And obviously you can hear in my voice, I dislike it immensely. And over the weeks and months, I just cannot stand it. So, and that's fine, right? I get to be with that. That is one thing. To externalize that, I think, is really where you go from sort of like planting the seed and sort of giving a little bit of water. But when you externalize it, I think you're like giving it lots of sunlight, like grow, baby, grow. And I hadn't spoken about this with anyone, and I recently was sort of like catty bitching about it with someone. And I realized in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, you are generating so much hate. You are generating so much hate. And I immediately stopped and was like, it's not worth it. It is fine that this person's car bothers me, all that, and I'm not going to fight that. Okay, fine. But I don't need to externalize this or generate any more hate. No, I just stopped and was like, no, I don't need to speak any further about this issue. So me generating hate, and that may seem to some people like a small thing. It is not, because I am watering the seed of hate. I am fertilizing it. I am giving it sunlight. And I just know from my moments of meditation, those so quickly grow. So quickly grow. So these are the types of things the ways that I'm generating hate in my current life. So there's one thing I've learned from hate is I want to be very careful about sort of this habit pattern I have of these small moments of hate, of generating hate, which actually culminate into a very big snowball of hate. Okay, so there's one. The second one is I often experience moments of hate that I realize are from the past. They actually aren't happening in the present moment, but because I'm experiencing them viscerally, there can be that confusion. And so in these moments where I'm experiencing, suddenly kind of feel this energy of hate, I would say, I am pausing and I'm beginning, and thanks to my therapist, I'm pausing and asking, is this new or old? And many times it's old, and I realize it's an old hate that has come up. And often that old hate has come up because there's pain. There's I don't know, I don't really know the words yet, but I just realized, this old pain is just to be felt. There's nothing, just feel what I'm feeling. It's old, keep going. So I'm starting to parse out, okay, there's different hates. There's like the old hate that there's some of it is still just is cycling through until it's completed its cycle. And then there's new hate that I'm kind of generating. So that's been a big step in understanding hate. Another really big one was I had a therapy session where we did parts work. So I know I've talked about this. You can look that up, IFS, Internal Family Systems. So we sat down and we started having a conversation with hate. And I was, talking to hate about like, why are you here? Like, what is the purpose that you've served? And it's been like, I'm here to protect you and keep you safe, and sometimes isolate you, like remove you from a situation or from an experience. And then as we kept talking, I was led to hate was not originally hate. Hate is power, but I have not been able to or understood power, like my personal power. What does it mean for me to have power in my body? Power of agency, power of will, whatever this being is, the power of this being to be as it is. And that since I was unable or didn't understand, or who knows what, I'm still exploring that, the power became hate in order to try to protect me in situations where I was not stepping into being my power, the power of whatever it is to be, quote, me, whatever this is. So as I began to have this new relationship with power, I'm starting to see how in the moments of, like, quote, helplessness, where I was unable or didn't understand or didn't dare be power, to be the power of me, that sort of self-betrayal, that frustration, that resentment grew and became hate, so that I could remove myself from those situations where I was not able to be me, to be respected as me. Here's the other thing that I've been seeing about power. And I'm very lucky. In the last 10 days, I've had 3 different therapy sessions. So I've been able to, like, really kind of get in there and parse this out, because I realize this is a big step for me. To choose to live without hate means that one of my primary shields, I'm dismantling them. So in place of that primary shield, I'm now going to use power, which is innate in all of us, is a gift for all of us, that we each have our innate power to be who we are. So to choose, for me to choose to dismantle hate, and allow the innate power of me to be me, is a big step. It means I will be seen, I will be heard, and people will, it makes you somewhat of a target, so to speak. Right? No more hiding behind the shield. Anyway, so power, stepping into my power, feels both scary, but just in the last few days has also been incredibly powerful. Having experiences where what I'm learning is that when I step into my power, people often don't appreciate it. And I've had this misconception that when you step into your power, it's like your glory, and people are gonna be like, wow, look at you, aren't you great, and I like you, you're so powerful, you're so wonderful. And I'm finding that that's not how it works. More often than not, it seems like when you step into your power, people are like, no, I don't want you to behave that way. I want you to behave the way I want you to behave, not the way you feel like you should behave. Or, I don't like you, you're challenging me. Here's an example. So I work with high school students, working on certain course books, whatever. So I obviously have athletes sometimes that need to bring up their GPA. I will get workbooks handed in. Clearly is not the student's handwriting, or maybe there's multiple handwritings. And I just say, no, that's not, that won't work. I need this in the student's handwriting. So I recently had a coach and a couple of football players come in. And the conversation had been going back and forth between counselor, coach, my boss, parent, and student. Okay, so there were lots of people involved in this email thread about, hey, here's an issue, blah, 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 blah. So this coach and a couple of football players happened to come into my office, and I work alone in the office I'm in. So here's this one woman and these 3, somewhat imposing men. They did not try to bully me. They did not try to openly intimidate me, although I think they were hoping to intimidate me, because the mother has always brought the student in before. I'm not sure why. The coach was something there. And they're like, hey, we want to see those workbooks. I'm like, sure, here they are. And they're like, well, show us what's wrong. And I thought, no, I've been through all this. I'm not going to show you, but I'll give you one example. So I turned to a couple of pages, and clearly, it's literally like if you had a left-handed person and a right-handed person, like in no world would the same person be able to even write these 2 ways in this one workbook. And I just said, that's not the same person. And it was funny because the student had been saying, well, it's like hundreds of pages, in all these workbooks, and, my penmanship's going to look different. And I just said, no. And then the coach was saying something, and I just said no. And they wanted me to go through all the workbooks with them, and I just said no. I just said, you can look at them. You can take them and look at them. I've already put it all in the email, so here they are. Do with them what you will. And I can't remember, the student said something else to me, and I just looked at, I don't remember what the comment was, and I just remember the words coming out of my mouth, and I just said, well, you would know better than I what happened. Basically like saying, don't ask, you keep asking me questions that you know better than I what actually happened here. I just know the end result is not one student doing the coursework. So I hand them to him, and they're about to leave, and then the coach turns around and he says, well, I just want you to know that I got them tutors, and so they didn't actually ever really look at the workbooks. And so I'll make sure they do this time. And I just looked at the coach like, I didn't say anything, but I thought, you shouldn't have said that. That makes absolutely no sense, because all the work is in the workbook. Like, they couldn't have done anything without the workbook. So if they didn't ever look at it, I don't know what they were doing, and then they just left. So that was a moment where I definitely stood in my power. It was just, I wasn't angry. I wasn't upset. I was surprised. I was nervous inside, but I just held true to, like, this is your issue. You need to bring me back, correct workbooks. Like, go ahead and address that. We're done. So, and it was interesting when they left, I was like, oh, that's me standing in my power. Nobody thought I was wonderful. None of the other 3 people thought I was wonderful. And I'm sure none of them were like, oh, what a lovely person. I'm so glad she's standing in her power. There was nothing glorified about it. It was actually kind of nerve-wracking. So I'm starting to understand, like, to stand in your personal power is for you to stand in what you believe in, what you stand for, basically. And people aren't going to suddenly appreciate you for it. And that's been a huge misconception for me. I definitely thought that I would be appreciated and maybe even admired for standing in my personal power. But isn't that fascinating that because I chose to have a relationship with hate, I am being shown how a lot of my hate has been generated and experienced through my loss and lack and unawareness of power and who power is, and what it means to hold and be my own power. I'm going to pause here and come back. Okay, I'm back, and I'm glad I took a little break, because even talking about power makes me nervous. And it's one of the things that I'm going to continue sort of delving in. Both hate scares me, and power makes me nervous. I'm sure there's lots more there. And so I'm beginning to look at, I know why hate scares me. I'm so afraid that I'll become destructive with hate because it can be overpowering. And I'm about to say, as I say it, I'm like, oh, of course. Power also scares me because I'm afraid I'll do harm in some way with it. And it's very important to me to do my best to do no harm, which I just don't even know if that's possible in this incarnation that I am. But that's always my intent, is to do no harm. And I guess what I'm learning is that I get to decide when I do harm, and I get to be responsible for that in the way that I choose. That it's no one else's. I'm no longer interested in other people telling me how I'm doing. That's a pretty scary place to be, and I know plenty of people will think that's dangerous. But what I find is that my inner barometer is set to a place of kindness and gentleness by nature. And it's often when I don't listen to that I get out of line. That's actually not true. I think I mostly get out of line when I temper myself because I know someone else is going to react in a way that I don't want to experience or see or hear. In the past, I've been willing to allow other people's disappointment or anger or their perceived judgments dictate my behavior. And a big part for me of allowing power to be power is allowing me to be me. And I think I will like who I am sometimes. I think I won't always understand, maybe not even appreciate who I am at times. It's funny, I can feel that I'm losing sort of the authenticity of this thread that I've been wanting to pull in this podcast. So I'm going to go back to where I began, which is I'm continuing to explore and discover hate, both old hate that's just cycling through and needing to finish its cycle, as well as new hate that I am generating. I'm also looking at how my personal power has not been expressed authentically, but instead has been used as a shield that I call hate, to protect and isolate and keep me safe. I no longer feel like I need that, so I'm willing and looking how to dismantle hate and allow power to be power. And the power that I speak of is nothing like what I see in the world. When we talk about, like, quote, powerful people or people in positions of power, that is not the power I'm speaking of. I do know that. I'm not entirely sure I can explain yet the power I speak of, other than I'm not in a position of power. The power is coming from within me, to be me, which is a very different place than being in a position of power. I'm not in a position of power. The power is within me and allows me to be me. So I think that's another trigger word for people is power. I would say the Dalai Lama is an incredibly powerful human being. And he is a man with no country, right? He's been totally kicked out of his country. So his power is generated from within him for him to be who he is. And that's the type of power I'm speaking of. And to say that that power is always peaceful, I don't agree with either, because I know as I've read about him and studied and listened to him, and he talked about the times when, the Chinese government was very, very angry with him, many times as he asked for, certain things to happen in Tibet. So the Dalai Lama, being power, the power of himself, wasn't, the Chinese government probably wanted to kill him at some points, get him to shut up. But so power I don't think it's always about peace. Neither is it about violence or war. What the Dalai Lama wasn't asking for was violence or war either. He was asking for situations to be considered in a different way, in a way that someone else didn't want to see. So the conflict was never, hey, let's go to war about this, but are you willing to look at the violence of your thoughts, of your speech, of your actions? And I would say that's very much what I've done and what I do. And yeah, more and more I find I'm finding myself more and more able to learn from each moment. When I say learn, that's not, I wish I had a different word, because my experience of life and learning is not what it once was. The learning used to always be from like to get me better, or from here to there, like always to get me better. And now it isn't that. It's more about wholeness. It's more about allowing it all, like making more space to understand. Again, I don't really like the word growth, because I think some of these words have been used so many times. It's always about trying to get from somewhere to somewhere else, and that isn't what I feel like is happening. It's like I feel like what's happening, when we began, I described hate as a very deep lake, and it's like just diving in the lake and going to the bottom, or just maybe just diving in the lake. I don't know how to explain it. It's about this whole endeavor with my rape trial, with my therapy, exploring hate, now suddenly meeting power. It feels more like a homecoming, like me being me. And I did say this to someone the other day. I can't quite remember who it was, but I said, I always thought when I became me that I was going to be like somehow better. And as I become more and more me, I am so flawed. I am so weird. I am so not who I thought I was, or who I thought I would be. And somehow it doesn't matter, because it's a homecoming and I'm just me. I'm just me. And I'm learning that so many things I've been taught are not right. Like hate, I don't see hate as, even like 10 days ago when I started this little journey with hate, I thought hate was pretty bad. And in the 10 days, I'm like, oh man, hate is like really a fascinating shield that so many people use in their life. It can also be a weapon. And, power is not at all what I thought it was, or what I've been taught, or even what I'm told every day. Like if I were to watch the news, I would be told that that's power, and I actually don't think it is. I don't know what that is, but that's not what I'm experiencing when I use the word power, and when I feel power inside of me. So where I am right now with this whole journey of hate, and I can tell there's going to be another one, because it's just way too fascinating, and it's so taboo. I think that's also it is. It's so taboo, and so for me to have dared to jump in this lake that is so taboo, and then to be shown and given and experienced such inspiring insights, I really feel like I've been given a gift. When hate first showed up, I was like, wow, why am I so cursed? And now I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm so glad I took the opportunity. So where I am now is very much committed to seeing and becoming aware of all the moments when I generate hate, whether that's in my thoughts about someone or something, in my speech, or actions. And they don't have to be big hates. I know those little hates, they're just as powerful, and they quickly accrue into snowballs. So all the little, big, or medium ways that I generate hate. And then also I feel a softening and a compassion for when those old moments of hate come up. They seem to be intrinsically tied with pain. There seems to be a pain associated when they come up. I'm assuming that with time I'll see that the pain was the loss of power, my loss of my own power, I'm sure in various ways. I'm also really fascinated to begin to allow power to be present. I worry that I'll get it wrong sometimes, and that I might abuse power or misuse it or direct it incorrectly. But I can't think of any other way than just to very thoughtfully practice with my own power and do my best to employ it properly based on my own barometer system. And it was interesting because I feel better about it because it was one of the things my therapist pointed out. I talked about 3 or 4 different situations in the last few days where I have been in a place of power and I was not always using it correctly. And I knew that in the moment. I was like, some moments I was like, I am power. The power of me is being harnessed and employed beautifully, regardless of what the person in front of me thinks. There were other times where I was like, wow, the power of me is not being employed healthfully or wholly. I don't know. And I'm like, and it's not going well. It's not happening. It shouldn't. And it was almost like the power I'm talking about wasn't the correct energy in that moment. It was like I was trying to employ power in a way that it was the wrong thing. Like I needed a different energy. It's like you need a spoon, not a fork, right? It was like I don't always understand when and how to employ power, and when something much more subtle would work better. And anyway, so my therapist pointed out, she's like, you're very keen, like you're very aware of when you're that kind of that self, that core self of you is very aware when it's not working and when it's not being employed well. So trust yourself and just try to begin to practice and be very aware. Like if it's not going well, can I set down the fork and pick up the spoon? Can I set down power and pick up something else? So I would say that's where I am right now in my journey. So there's hate. I see it. I'm looking at it. I'm knowing it. I'm deciding about it. And now this new evolution with power and the way it's been a little bit lost due to the energy of hatred, the presence of hatred. I don't feel bad about myself. I appreciate that very much. I think I've just done too much work, and I realize that there won't ever be a time or a place. I cannot yet fathom a time or a place where I won't see all kinds of ways, like sort of quote issues I have, or ways that I could make more space, become more whole, live more fully. I feel like that will be my journey for the foreseeable future and maybe for this entire lifetime. So what I would offer you in all of this, the key takeaway, whatever you find most disgusting, I would encourage you to pick it up. See it, look at it, and know it, and then decide. And I would say hatred for me was one of the most disgusting things about life. And in 10 days, I've gone from seeing it as that to now understanding what a powerful energy it is, how much it had to offer me, and literally, I was going to say make peace with it, but not even that, like really just accept it. Like, oh, here is one more part of life, one more part of me. And it's not disgusting at all. So whatever you find most disgusting, I encourage you to see it. Stop running away. Turn. Look at it. See it. See it. Look at it. Know it. Know it for what it is, and know it in relationship with yourself. What is your personal relationship with that thing you find so disgusting? And then decide. Then decide. And you may find yourself right where you are. And then you'll know. Nope, still same. But maybe you'll find yourself in a very different position as I do. So, all right, that's enough for today until we get to, I'm sure there'll be a part 3, because this does not feel like it's anywhere close to being over. In the meantime, you all take care of yourselves and take a big, deep breath. You deserve every breath. You deserve every breath. And as Eli Connor said, every breath is precious.